We have the opportunity right now with AI to make sure that every single student has exactly what they need.
We're excited to launch ACE, our new AI-powered assistant. With ACE for Educators, we're making it faster and easier to integrate formative assessments into your course content with AI-powered questions. And ACE is not just for educators. ACE for Students gives AI-powered study assistance. Students can ask questions about what they're learning, and ACE will provide a relevant response. And it knows the materials that you have access to. And so when you ask it a question, ACE knows exactly how to provide the answer that will be helpful to you.
The future is bright. The future is exciting, right? The future is about making sure every single student has exactly what they need at the right moment. It's about really personalizing the experience for every single student so that they can realize their potential.
Hello, everyone. We're glad to have you with us. My name is Eric Gardner. I'm the Director of Educational Programming here at Top Hat. Now, before we jump in, I'd like to just clarify a couple of things. So unlike a traditional summer camp, we're unable to offer you swim lessons at the docks, three-legged races, or s'mores by the campfires. These things are actually fairly difficult to orchestrate virtually. But the good news is we can guarantee absolutely no mosquitoes, provided you're viewing this indoors, or boisterous cabin mates, unless you happen to have small children who aren't actually in summer camp at the moment. And hopefully no trips to the infirmary. So Top Hat Summer Camp is a little bit different than a traditional camp, but we hope it's no less engaging for all of you. So served up in weekly installments through this week into July 25th, Top Hat Summer Camp features acclaimed speakers and some truly exceptional faculty presenters who are with us to share their insights and practices to help you set the stage for a successful term. Our theme for today, starting the term. Because the first day of class is a big deal, we've lined up a real treat for all of you. At 2 o'clock today, you're going to hear from none other than Dr. James Lang, author of Distracted and Small Teaching, who will be joining us to share his guiding principles for teaching a great first day of class. And after that, we've got two wonderful faculty members who will discuss how they launched the learning journey and how they use Top Hat to welcome students, create connections, and drive engagement from day one. But first up, we're going to give you a tour of what's new with Top Hat. This is where we give you a sneak peek behind the curtains to see what the team has been cooking up for all of you. And to help us showcase some of the truly exciting new AI-powered features the team has delivered, I'm joined by our Senior Manager of Product Marketing, Claire Castro, who also happens to moonlight as our Campcraft expert and sports director. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you so much. I am absolutely delighted to be here to start summer camp with you all. So thank you for being here today. So before we dive in, I'd love to check in with you all and let's get a finger on the pulse of how everyone is feeling today. So there's going to be a poll that comes up on your screen. Want to know, how are you feeling about the upcoming academic year? Let's see, is it just, are you feeling like this is way too soon to be talking about this? Still recovering from last term? You cautiously optimistic? You're just like ready, bring it on. I'm gonna give you all a couple seconds to respond. You may be feeling a couple of these things. Well, which one describes you best at this point? All right. All right. Oh, mixed here, mixed results. So we have some folks who are totally ready, or at least cautiously optimistic, and a couple that are still kind of recovering and not sure they're quite ready for this. That's totally understandable. There is no question that this has been a challenging year. The headline, or should I say headlines, have undoubtedly been AI, and more AI. So has there been a sense of panic over generative AI and the impact that it's having on student learning and academic integrity? Undoubtedly, yes. Has there been a push in many quarters to retool assignments and assessments? Certainly. Are we seeing thoughtful experimentation as educators find new ways to engage students reduce their own workload and bring more of what they love to their students? Yes, again. According to a recent survey by Titan Partners, roughly 40% of faculty are now using AI, which is a sizable increase from the fall. Yet 36% have yet to even dip their toes in the water. And if you're in that latter camp that hasn't done anything with AI quite yet, you may be heartened to know that even the so-called regular users, at least according to the survey, are those who use AI at least once per month. So if slow walking is more your speed when it comes to generative AI, you are far from alone. We, of course, live in a world that values speed, but there's definitely a lot of merit in taking our time and testing the waters before jumping in. So like many in higher ed, we here at Top Hat have been thinking a lot about AI too. And we believe that AI has the potential to dramatically enhance educators' ability to leverage evidence-based practices and support students in their learning journey. And so for the past several months, with a lot of input from instructors, students, and others in the higher education community, we've been focused on developing features that thoughtfully integrate AI into the Top Hat platform with these very specific outcomes in mind. So today we're going to show you some recent innovations in Top Hat that make it faster and easier to bring active learning and frequent assessments to your course design and delivery. We're going to show you ways that we're making personal study support accessible to all students. And we're going to show you how we're providing more opportunities for peer-to-peer learning. Now, some of these innovations that we're going to discuss today are powered by AI, but all of them are centered on the very human experience of learning. So we have a lot to go through today, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump in. So as leaders in student engagement in higher education, evidence-based teaching practices have always been at the foundation of what we do here at Top Hat. Top Hat started as a classroom response system where students could interact with in-class polls, discussions, and questions on their phones. And when we saw the power of this engagement, how it made every student an active participant in their course, how it provided really helpful feedback to instructors, we committed to building an innovative platform that would make these effective teaching and learning practices like active learning and frequent assessment accessible to more educators and more students. So that's what we did. But even with a platform like Top Hat, it takes time to implement evidence-based teaching practices into courses. So let's consider the time it takes to build a single assessment question. So I have a quick poll for you. This time, we're just going to use the chat. So how many minutes would you say that it takes to construct a good multiple choice question? So just one question, just pop a number in the chat. How many minutes, right? 10, 30, 10, 30. Oh my gosh, overwhelming. Okay, we got 20 minutes, 15 minutes. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we got some speedy folks here and some that take a little bit more time. I'm going to go with 10, probably a little on the low side of the average that I'm seeing here, but we'll go with 10 just for simplicity here, okay? So now we're going to do a little bit of math. I have my trusty calculator ready. Okay, so in calendar year 2023 alone, Top Hat users created more than 200,000 multiple choice questions in Top Hat. Now, if we assume that it takes 10 minutes on average, and I think that was kind of on the lower side of what we saw here in the chat, but if we say that it takes 10 minutes to create a single assessment question, and we multiply that by 200,000, I don't even think I need my calculator for that. That adds up to 2 million minutes of educator time spent crafting questions. Let's actually go ahead and let's divide that by 60 just to see how many hours. That is 33,000 hours of educator time spent crafting questions. So it takes a lot of time and work to implement frequent low stakes assessment. We really want to fix that. Meet Top Hat ACE, the new AI-powered assistant designed to create better teaching and learning experiences for both educators and students. Now, one of the things that ACE does for educators is make it faster and easier to bring active learning to class sessions with our new AI-powered lecture enhancer. Now, educators can generate interactive questions from their slide content with the click of a button. And rather than show you this in slides, I'm going to show you it directly in Top Hat. So let me bring up my Top Hat course here. Okay. So I am in a Top Hat course now, and I have a set of slides that I have uploaded to this course here. Now, I'd like to add some interactivity to this slide presentation. I'd like to build in some checkpoints so that I can check my students' understanding, just kind of do a quick pulse check for them. So what I can do here is I can choose a slide in my deck where I want to insert a checkpoint, like this one here on neurons. And I'm just going to go ahead and select this slide, and I'm going to click on Generate AI Question. When I click on that button, what ACE does is look at the content of this slide that I have selected, and it's going to generate a multiple choice question for me. Here is the question that ACE generated. So now I have this multiple choice question that I can present in class that my students can respond to on devices so that I and my students can get immediate insights into whether they are understanding the material. So I have this question. I can provide some feedback to ACE. If I love it, I can use it as is. I can give a thumbs up. I could present this right now if I wanted to and have my students respond to it. Or if I see something that I want to tweak, so I thought this was a good start, but I want to add a little bit of something to it, or I want to make some adjustments, all I have to do is click that edit button. I retain complete control over my course materials. So I can change the question. I can change any of the answer choices here. Let's go ahead and get rid of one of these. And I'm going to go ahead and save my question. And now it's ready to go. I can also do this for multiple slides. So let's say that there is a concept that I have covered over a series of slides. So I have a couple of slides here on neurotransmitters. I'm going to select them from the content tree here in Top Hat. I'm going to click on that Generate AI Question button again. And ACE is going to look at the content of those 3 slides and then generate a question. And here we go. Again, seconds, right? And I can edit this if I want. I can delete it if I feel like it's missed the mark entirely. I can move it elsewhere in the deck. Again, complete control over course materials. So what used to take minutes or hours now takes seconds. So even if you only have 5 or 10 minutes to get ready, you can still get students actively participating in your class session. And I think I saw a question come in about whether these questions can be assigned. Yes, they can, just like you can assign slide decks for your students in Top Hat. So this is great for in-class engagement, right? Even if you have a few minutes, you can get students working through content in your classroom, getting those immediate insights. But what about engagement and formative assessment outside of class? We can help you there too. So with ACE, you can also generate questions almost instantly from content in your Top Hat textbooks, reading assignments, or any other materials that you put in Top Hat pages. So let me go ahead and move over here to a reading assignment in my course. This happens to be a reading assignment from a Top Hat textbook, but this could be anything that I've built out in Top Hat pages. If you're new to Top Hat, this is Pages are content personalization tool. You can build and adapt course materials using this tool. So I'm going to come into this reading assignment. I'm going to go ahead and open it in edit mode. All right. And I have all of this content that my students are going to be reading. And I want to break it up a little bit and build in some checkpoints, just like I did with my slide deck. So if I find a spot where I want to insert a question, all I do is click on this little insert button. And you can build your own question, but you'll notice that we have this new AI-powered question button. If I click on this, what's going to happen is ACE is going to look at the preceding content on this page, and it's going to generate a question based on that content. And not just a question, but also supporting hints and explanations so that my students get feedback as they're working through material outside of class, because I'm not there as the instructor, right, with them when they're working through this outside of class. So here's my question that ACE has generated. Just like with the questions generated by the lecture enhancer, this is ready to be used. If I like it, I can go ahead and save. And this would be in my reading for my students to begin interacting with as soon as I assigned it. Or I can go ahead and edit. I can change the question. I can change any of the answer choices. I can even change the hints and explanations. All right. So both of these features that I just showed you are live now for Top Hat users to help you bring more active learning to more of your students. Speaking of students, ACE can also help scale other evidence-based practices in your course, like providing personalized support for students. So let me go ahead and close out of this edit view. We're not going to save our question for now. Okay. So personalized support for students. Learning science tells us that students do better when they have personalized support. You all know this. When you can spend one-on-one time with your students, they perform better. One-on-one support is clearly effective in improving student outcomes, but it's very difficult to scale. But now we're at this point where the evolution of AI technology has made it possible for us to unlock the power of personal tutoring for every student. So in addition to helping you with course prep, ACE also empowers students by providing each and every one of them with personal support when and where they need it without ever having to leave their Top Hat course. So imagine I am a student now, okay? And I'm working through this content outside of class. Let's jump down to a section of this chapter. And I come across something that I don't understand. Now, when that happens, I can ask ACE a question about what I'm learning, and ACE is going to provide me with assistance that is relevant and rooted in my course materials. So let me show you how it works. So I've come across something I'm not sure about. I can go ahead and click on this little sparkle icon here. It says Stuck, Chat with ACE. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Let's try it out. I can type any question I want into the chat box here. We've also provided a couple of these default prompts to help students understand kind of how they could use ACE and the different ways that it can help them. In this case, I want ACE to help explain something to me that I didn't get from the reading. So let's go ahead and ask ACE to explain a concept. All right, and ACE is saying, sure thing, here to help. So what concept would you like me to explain? All right, so I'm gonna ask it, and sorry, I'm terrible at typing when people are watching me, but so bear with me for a moment. Let's see. Can you explain the difference between the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system? Okay, let's see what ACE does here. Okay, so I've asked my question of ACE. ACE is now thinking. What it's doing is it's crafting a response that is rooted in my course materials. What do I mean by that? So if you have ever used ChatGPT or any other generative AI tool, you've probably experienced that the quality of the output you get is very much dependent on the quality of the input that you provide and the context that you provide to the AI agent. When you are asking a question of ACE, it already has some very important context. It knows that you are a student, that you are in a college level introduction to psychology course. It has a general understanding of what you are studying here on this page, so that when you ask ACE a question, it can provide you with a response that is relevant and that is rooted in your course. So I have my answer here from ACE. What can I do from here? Well, again, I can provide feedback to ACE if I found the response helpful or unhelpful. That just helps us help ACE get better at answering questions. I can also continue my conversation. So let's see, can you provide me with an example of the sympathetic nervous system in action? All right. Goodness. Okay. All right. It's smart enough. It'll know. All right. So it's going to provide me with an example. Hopefully, if it understands my typos, And there it did. Okay. So here it gives me an example. Imagine you're in the woods and suddenly you see a bear and your sympathetic nervous system would kick in, and here's what would happen. So you can have this conversation with ACE. You can dive deeper into topics as a student. It's a very engaging way to engage with your material. For students also, you can enter a chat with ACE from the side here. You can also do so from the content itself. So if I'm working through this material and I see something I don't understand or I want to remember or ask about, I can highlight it, and I have this Ask ACE, Ask AI button. And once again, I can click on this and I can type any question that I want into ACE, or we provided some sample prompts to help guide students. So in this case, let's go ahead and ask it to quiz me on this concept. Now it's going to craft an assessment question. So what are some physiological changes that occur in the body when the sympathetic nervous system is activated during a life or death situation? Let's say increased heart rate. And now ACE is going to provide me with some feedback, but I got it correct, and some additional explanations. So that is how ACE works for students as a study assistant. One more thing I want to show you with regard to the study assistant is we have also added, or we've recently added, a new ACE Insights feature here within our study assistant. So ACE is primarily a student feature, the study assistant. The conversations between students and ACE, the study assistant, are private, but instructors have told us that it would be really helpful to get an idea of what kinds of questions ACE is asking, or the students are asking of ACE. So we've started rolling out this, an early version of an Insights feature that gives you some insights into what your students are doing with ACE. So if I click on the Insights button, I can see that 44% of my students have engaged with ACE at least once during this course. And I can see here what are some of the topics that they've been asking about. And you can see they're asking about the sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, and experimental and control conditions. So this is a new feature. We're going to continue to evolve this and grow these insights based on feedback from our users. So let me go ahead and jump back into my slide deck, because I want to share a little bit more about what students think of ACE and how they are using it. So actually, I'm going to skip a couple of these slides because I showed you this all in real life. And I want to come here and just tell you how students are reacting. So we first introduced ACE in October 2023, and during its limited release, over 10,000 students used it to break down challenging concepts, to find examples, to generate content summaries, to get homework help, and to test their knowledge. And we consistently hear from students who really love that ACE provides this relevant support when and where they need it. And they also love that it takes really a Socratic approach to homework help. So it doesn't always give them the answer outright. It provides them guidance. It guides them down the pathway so that they can get the answer and they're empowered to solve the problem on their own. And we hear a lot from students who wish that they'd engaged with ACE earlier in the term, which leads me to some success tips for you. So the ACE Study Assistant, as I mentioned, is primarily a student tool, but I'm sure you can attest to the fact that students are not always aware of the tools that are available to them or how to use those tools constructively. So one way that you can set your students up for success at the start of the term is to take a few minutes in one of your early classes, or perhaps in a video if you're teaching online, but proactively introduce ACE to your students. You can bring it up in class, you can ask it questions together as a group with your students. So Dr. Shrivanti Confetti, who's a Top Hat user at Lanier Technical College in Georgia, she does this. So she uses ACE as an icebreaker activity in her anatomy and physiology classes. And she makes it a point to integrate ACE into early class sessions because it helps reinforce it as a resource for her students. And it has this added benefit of helping to create community. because she and her students are exploring the feature together, and then they come back and share things that ACE was able to help them to, like, oh, did you know that it can generate an outline of the chapter, which is helpful for studying for assessments. So that's just a tip to get the most out of ACE for your students. Now, what's next for ACE and student support? Well, we recently introduced a new AI-powered practice tool in our mobile app. Students can generate brief practice sessions consisting of 10 multiple choice questions from their page content in their course. So they'll be able to review their learning as they get instant feedback on their responses to these questions, and they can see their score at the end of the session. This tool is currently available for a select list of Top Hat interactive e-texts. It's new. It will likely evolve as we get student and faculty feedback, but it's an example of how we continue to look for ways to leverage the latest technology to level up the learning experience. These features that I just showed you, they are just the beginning. ACE will continue to drive innovation in Top Hat that is grounded in evidence-based principles to give students the tools and support that they need to do their best, to make it easier for you educators to implement proven learning practices and to really focus on what matters most, and to make education more accessible to a diverse range of students. So we are very, very excited about ACE. I'm sure you can tell, but I really hope that you are too. ACE and that opportunity unlocked by AI is powerful. But as I mentioned earlier, the most important element in learning is always going to be that human connection. So we know that students are successful when they feel that they're part of a classroom community, when they feel that they belong and that they're supported. And studies show that this sense of belonging influences their academic performance, achievement, and their persistence. And one of the best ways that we can use technology to foster this sense of belonging is by giving students more opportunities to be active participants in their courses and to interact with one another and with you. So that's why we're introducing Class Threads, which is a feature designed to do just that. Class Threads brings an element of social and connected learning to all courses by giving students a way to ask and respond to questions and exchange ideas in the context of assigned content. It is available now to all Top Hat users. So let's imagine, again, I'm that student, I'm working through material outside of class, and I've come across something I'm not sure about. Now, if it's a definition I don't understand, an example that's unclear to me, I can ask ACE. But if my question is one that requires more of a human element, like how does this relate to what we discussed in class today? ACE wasn't in class. It doesn't necessarily know what we talked about in class. Is this a topic I can use for my paper? Is this going to be on the test, right? These are all very popular questions. If you have a question like this, where can you turn? Email your professor, you can wait for office hours. Maybe you have access to Discord, or there's a group chat where you can ask other students in your class. Or maybe you decide to kind of go it on your own and give up. But with Class Threads, you don't need to do any of these things. You can ask your question right there in the relevant slider page where your classmates, your TA, your professor can see exactly where you need help and offer assistance. So you don't have to go to a separate app like GroupMe or Discord. You don't need to leave the learning experience. You don't even have to be invited to the group chat because everyone in the class has access. And you don't need to provide a ton of context for your questions because you're asking it right there alongside the content that you are confused about. And questions are not the only use for Class Threads. So you could invite students to use Class Threads to share examples or reactions to course content. You can post clarifying comments. You can remind students of resources that are available to them. Like, this is a challenging chapter. Don't forget that you can ask ACE questions about it. These small actions remind students that they are not working through this content alone. So by creating these opportunities for interaction, connection, and collaboration outside of the classroom, Class Threads helps foster a learning community where students are empowered to seek out help and provide assistance to each other when they're stuck. And when students, of course, are helping each other in this like shared forum, guess what else happens? You get fewer of these one-off emails from students asking the same question over and over again. So that's an added benefit there for you. So ClassThreads is available now, but you do need to enable it in your course for students to begin using it. So you can do that from any assigned page or slide in your course. You can also do it from the advanced course settings in your Top Hat course. And now, if you're excited about the prospect of using ClassThreads to drive connection in your class, I encourage you to think about ways that you can model engagement for your students with this feature. Our most successful ClassThreads courses, the ones where we see the most interaction, the most active students contributing and connecting with one another, these are the ones where the instructor makes it a point to contribute to threads themselves. So you'll get notifications in your Top Hat course every time a new thread is posted so that you can jump in if you want, you can help students, or do something as simple as just thank them for contributing to the course. And if you want additional tips, I would encourage you to check out 5 ways to boost peer connection using ClassThreads on the Top Hat blog. There are a lot of really great practical advice in this from Lee Delaney Tucker. Lee is a biology instructor at the University of South Alabama. She was an instructor who piloted ClassThreads and really found a lot of success with it in her course. As you can see, we have introduced some big innovations to help scale effective teaching and learning practice, but sometimes it's the small changes that can have a big impact as well. So while we've been developing our AI-powered features and working to bring ClassThreads to more users, we've also been refining the overall Top Hat user experience to make it easier than ever for educators, especially those who are new to our platform, to bring engaging learning experiences to students. So to start, new users will now find a new Learn Top Hat module, a tab at the bottom of their screen where they can access brief interactive tutorials that are going to guide them through setting up their first presentation. If you are familiar with Top Hat and you have an eagle eye, you may have also noticed when I was showing you the ACE features earlier, you may have noticed that new Add to Course button at the top of the content tree. So we've given the old Create menu a makeover. It has a new streamlined design that makes it easier and simpler to find that slide upload option and to see at a glance all that you can do with Top Hat. So this new menu is available now for all of our newer users. We're going to be rolling this change out to all of our users over the coming weeks so that it'll be available for fall. And last, but certainly not least, we're adding a student view option to presentations so that you can do a test run of your slides. So you'll be able to access this view from the initial presentation screen. So if you click on that new student view button, it's going to open a new tab in your browser where you'll be able to see your presentation as a student would. So you can toggle between those 2 tabs. You can advance the slides on the instructor side, and you can see what they look like, what they would look like in your classroom for your students. And this will allow you to have more confidence that you're ready to deliver an engaging lecture. So we are nearing the end of our time together today. So regardless of how you were feeling at the start of the session, when I polled you earlier, I do hope you're leaving with a sense of empowerment and excitement about what's possible when it comes to implementing more evidence-based teaching strategies in your course this fall. And of course, we do have plenty of other programming today and throughout summer camp to help inspire you. If you'd like to learn more about anything I shared today, or you're ready to get started, head over to tophat.com. You can click on the Create Your Account button. It's in the upper right corner of the screen, or if you already have a Top Hat account, you can log in from there as well. And you can start uploading slides and generating those questions immediately using ACE. So thank you so much for spending your time with us today. And now I'd like to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Claire. That was amazing, and so much engagement. Certainly, coming through the chat and the Q&A side of things. A couple of questions for you that have come through. Like first off, if ACE is actually generating questions and study support from, an instructor's slides and reading, does that mean that their course material is actually being used to train ACE?
That's a great question. That's one we get a lot. No, ACE does not train on the course content in Top Hat or on user interactions with it. It has its own training data, but it uses that content, that course content, as context for the responses that it provides to users, so that those responses can be relevant and they can relate to your course better than if you went someplace like ChatGPT.
And there's several questions that came through I saw around accuracy of the responses that ACE provides, both obviously for instructors and certainly for students. Can you comment on how accurate ACE is in terms of what it provides?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So first of all, AI is definitely not infallible. We know AI can hallucinate sometimes. So we do advise users whenever they're interacting with ACE to check the content of perhaps the questions that it generates, or to keep in mind when they're interacting with the study assistant, that sometimes ACE can be inaccurate. That said, we do a lot of testing of these features to make sure that it is delivering high quality responses. We have very high like rates on the questions that are created by instructors using the tool. So it does a pretty good job of being on track and providing quality materials. The other thing I'll add there is that students have given us a lot of high marks on ACE, and a couple of the remarks that I've gotten for students is like, they'll recognize sometimes ACE might not give them the exact correct answer, but they recognize that. And two, they always found that it helps get them on the right pathways, right? It's about helping to empower them to solve the question themselves.
Great. So here's an interesting one. Speaking of students, we had a question come through. If my students have access to ACE and can create questions from my slides, because they can presumably use the content to quiz themselves, would they know the questions or the trends of the questions? Is this true? I guess there's some concern out there about is ACE just going to simply replicate or create shortcuts for assessments that the instructor might end up wanting to use?
That's a great question. So ACE does provide, its responses are going to be rooted in your course material, but it wouldn't necessarily, like for first of all, the Quiz Me feature that's in ACE right now, it asks more open-ended questions. So it's not necessarily going to replicate the same multiple choice questions that it would give you as an instructor generating questions off of a slide or page content. So that would be less of a concern there. I think it is working off the same content, but we try to build in a lot more, because when you're working with that as an instructor, it's interacting with you as an instructor. But if it's working with students, it knows it's working with a student account. So while there's probably going to be there definitely will be overlap in terms of the types of content it's asking about. I don't think that there would be like a ton of one-to-one parity between what it's going to provide to you and what it's going to provide to students.
Yeah, and there's a lot of variability too, obviously, in what it provides. So, it can generate multiple different question types based on, the same sort of page or even slide content, within reason, of course. Speaking of that, does ACE only consider course content in its output, or is it looking at other things in order to provide, assessment question ideas or responses to student questions?
So it kind of depends on what's in your course, right? So ACE has training data. But when you're interacting with ACE, it really uses your course content as like a lot of bounding context for your question, or that kind of behind the scene prompt that happens when you ask it to generate a question. So it's going to use things like your course subject. It's going to include the course. It's going to think about the course title. It's going to look at the content of your slides. It's going to look at the content of the pages in the course. If there's not a lot of information in your course, like if your pages are very light, your slides content is very light, it's going to pull more heavily from its training data that comes from outside of your course. But we do build a lot of bounding context to try to keep it as much as possible in your course.
Okay, great. Okay, and I'm gonna just keep peppering you here. I hope that's okay, Claire.
Sure.
So like quite, and I know we sort of touched on this, but just to reiterate, I think I know the answer to this, but can ACE generate questions from images on slides? And what about videos that I've embedded in a slide or a page? Because we know that that's a capability that Top Hat offers.
Yeah, so in slides, ACE can generate questions off of images. So it can read images, it can read text, it can read a combination of the two, charts and graphs as well. So it does fairly well on a wide variety of slides. The other thing it can do actually in slides as well is if you have drafted a multiple choice question already in your slide that you've uploaded, it can transcribe that question into a Top Hat question as well. Going back to the other question about video, no, right now it does not read video content. On pages, so I showed you how it generates from slides, and it also generates from page content. On pages right now, it reads page text content only. So it doesn't read images on pages, but it does read your slide images.
You know, I know I'm going to probably tread into, you know, tricky territory here a little bit because it's
Bring it on.
It's okay, good. It's a forward-looking question.
Okay.
But there's, you know, like some things have popped up around what about analytical type questions or like application level questions or maybe things around reflection. So maybe without, you know, perhaps overstepping, if you could give us some hints around where you see ACE going over the next, say, 6 to 12 months in terms of the types of questions that it will generate for instructors.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question because I mean, like as soon as I saw what ACE could do, that was the same questions I asked to our product and engineering team. What could it do? This, could it do that? So yes, totally understand that question. So yeah, right now it is multiple choice. We, of course, our vision is to expand it beyond multiple choice. We've done a lot of research with our users and non-users as well. We know that instructors are asking a lot of application questions, discussion questions. You know, when people see ACE, the next kind of questions that they'd like to be able to generate from it tends to be things like word answer questions or discussion questions. So that's likely where we'll be focusing our efforts next. Timeline on that is TBD, but certainly this is a very popular feature and really important to us. So, you know, I would expect that down the line, ACE is going to be able to support more types of questions and like difficulty levels, things like that, and also being able to process more than perhaps a couple of slides. Wonderful.
Okay, we've got a couple more here, and then I think we can we'll move to our close. Some questions about like student view, or one question in particular. Can you just talk us through how that works and how instructors can actually access and be able to see what the student view is for their course content?
Okay, yeah. So student view is this version of student view that we are releasing initially is to help you do kind of a practice run of your presentations. So what you would do is when you upload your slides and you've added questions and you want to see what it looks like before you go into your classroom and start presenting it to your students, you can click on the present button as you would always do to start running a presentation. And you'll notice that there is going to be this new student view button on that. When you click student view, what's going to happen is it's going to open another tab in your browser where you'll be able to view that presentation as a student. So on your instructor tab, you're able to go control the presentation, move through the slides and questions. You can toggle over to your student tab, and you can see what it looks like for your students. You can't respond to the questions right now with this initial version, but it's just a matter of like being able to see how is the question going to display? How are my slides going to display? Are they in the right order? Is this what I want it to look like when I go into my classroom?
Sonia, I don't want to undercut AI here and all the work that's happened around ACE, but I could tell when you talked about the student view that the chat really lit up. There's a lot of excitement. And for those of you who are new to Top Hat, this has been a feature that's been top of mind for many instructors for a number of years. So it's really exciting to see that's now finally available to folks. So I guess there's a lot of questions here, and we probably aren't going to be able to answer everything. So maybe you could just wrap up by commenting on how do folks get started? What kind of resources and support do we offer to make sure that folks are well versed and are able to really leverage some of the capabilities you've talked about today?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first of all, to get started, you can go to tophat.com right now. You can create an account and you can start working in the platform. We also, if you go to tophat.com, there's a request a demo button as well. That'll connect you with the Top Hat representative who can speak with you if you need to kind of talk through a little bit about what you might do with Top Hat. When you decide to use Top Hat in your classroom, we provide training for you. We have a great team of instructional designers that works with our new users to kind of understand what your goals are and to talk through how to use the platform to reach those goals. So we provide a lot of support. We have technical support for both instructors and for students that is always very highly rated by our users.
And I would add to that, the team has actually put together a number of how-to videos. So as part of the package for summer camp, we're going to make all the recordings available. We've got some great guides on teaching and learning that we're also going to be sharing. But the how-to videos as well, which are just short 1 to 2 minute long videos that really walk through the specific use of a feature, so you can just sort of get your question answered. So it's a lot to process. So that's going to be, I think, a really helpful resource for folks who then start to play around and integrate Top Hat into their teaching practice. So Claire, thank you so much. Wonderful presentation and lots of questions there. And again, I would encourage everyone out there who's interested, sign up for your account, hit the demo button, request a demo. We've got a really great team there that will be more than happy to walk you through the various features and get your questions answered. One thing I wanted to call out as we move to the close is we're in the midst of launching a AI faculty survey, speaking of AI. We do hope you're going to stick around for the rest of the afternoon, because we've got another great presentation starting in about 13 minutes with James Lang. But at some point, we are going to part ways, at least until next week, which is the next round of summer camp. And when we do, you'll be directed to our faculty AI survey, which will be in your browser. And what we're seeking to understand is the current state of evidence-based teaching practices and the role AI may or may not be playing in evolving the way you teach. And we'd love for you to share your insights. The survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete. I swear I've actually done it. I may have even written the survey myself. And if you share your email address, you're going to be entered to win a draw for a $250 gift card. And you will also receive a copy of the survey report when it's finished, and that'll probably happen sometime mid to late August. So if you're able to do that, thank you in advance for your participation. And please do stick around because in just a few minutes at 2 o'clock, we're going to welcome Dr. James Lang, author of Distracted and Small Teaching. And James is going to share his guiding principles for teaching a great first day of class. And this is based on a famous essay that he wrote a number of years ago in the Chronicle of Higher Education. You may have seen it. Now's your chance to hear firsthand from James around launching the term in the best way possible. So you won't want to miss out. So thanks very much, and we'll see you in about 11 minutes. Thanks, everyone.